pride, passion, and pageantry of college football lives here. This is the Paul Finebaum Show, Hour 2 podcast.
This might be college football heaven.
Live for the second hour, as if we wouldn't be here on the Monday after the Super Bowl. A lot of conversation about that. A lot of talk about the upcoming 1 versus 2 matchup between Auburn and Alabama. That is not in football. They've never played, I don't believe, or have they, 1 versus 2? But they are playing in basketball. Let's continue with more calls. And Zach is up next in Chicago.
Hey, Paul. How's it going?
We are doing great. Thank you.
So, reason for my call, I was listening to your show probably like a year or two ago now, and you mentioned the book Death to the BCS.
Right.
And finally, I made a note to myself to read it, finally got around to reading it. And I think my biggest takeaway from it is that college football is just always going to be filled with controversy, whether it's conference alignment, playoff format, anything. But I will say I think things have gotten so much better since 2010 when this book was written. They were talking about things like when Auburn was left out of the national championship in 2004 with an undefeated record in the SEC, and it ended up being I'm sure you know.
Zach, if you go back to that moment in time, the SEC commissioner at the time was Mike Slive. He was so angry about that he began to make a move for what would ultimately be the BC a +1. And it didn't pass, but ultimately the college football playoff did pass. But you know, Tommy Tuberville was the coach. Auburn started the season ranked, I think, 18th or 20th. Oklahoma and Southern Cal, were 1 and 2, and neither ever lost. And so Auburn had no room to move up. Yeah,
it's pretty wild how it was working just not too long ago. Also had a quick question if you got the time.
Yeah, sure.
So I was under the impression growing up during the BCS that it was basically just the top 2 seeds in the AP poll were the ones that would make the national championship. But then I learned in this book it was a combination of coaches poll, this Harris poll, and then the computer system. And I've never understood the computer system that the BCS used. Do you have any insight as to what that was at all, other than just people saying, "Oh, computers made the decision"?
Yeah, I mean, there were. If I remember, the computer, the BCS was 2/3 human polls. It was I think it was the AP, and then there was a coach's poll, and it was 1/3.
The Harris had also mentioned the Harris poll.
Yeah, it was a compilation, but the computer poll was an amalgamation of 5 or 6 different polls. Not polls, but computer rankings, and I can't remember specifically, but it was, by the way, as much criticism of the BCS as there was, it was pretty accurate. I mean, there were really, I can't think of too many. Yeah, I mean, they were usually right on. The weird part about the early days of the BCS, if I remember correctly, the BCS started in '98, I think, and I don't think I think the Rose Bowl was still. Was the Rose Bowl an outlier or not? I mean, I really don't even remember anymore. But it was imperfect, obviously, and they nearly had a 4-team playoff in, I think, 2008, and then at the last second somebody backed out, and they finally got it for the 2014 season. Thank you for the call. Very interesting. It's by the way, the guy who wrote that book is Dan Wetzel, who we have on the show all the time. Otis Shea is up next.
Mr. Finebaum, thank you for taking my call as always.
Thank you very much.
You're doing well.
We are doing great.
We know, which we know you're always doing great when they call in. Just kind of touching on the Super Bowl. I know this is different from the SEC, but last night, I was kind of torn. I wanted to see history being made with the Kansas City Chiefs, but I also wanted Philly to win just because, we had some Bama players. Now, with that being said, I do understand that, they were, the media was saying, oh, well, it's the Eagles versus the referees. But I understand when the game was played, it wasn't the Eagles versus the refs. I mean, there were some egregious calls. I get that. But, I do understand that the whole aspect of what the world sees versus what the referee sees. In your opinion, was this probably one of the biggest blowouts?
Yeah, and I think what you have to do is forget the final score, because I don't know how many people that made it to the end of the game where you had Kansas City, get 2 touchdowns and two-point conversion. I mean, what was it, 40-6? At 40-6, I mean, I really don't know, outside of Eagles fans and maybe Taylor Swift's immediate family, who would maybe watching to see if her boyfriend got a catch, who in the world would be interested in a blowout? So yeah, I mean, there have been worse games. Seahawks Broncos in 2013. I mean, there have been early in the history of the Super Bowl. I mean, there were a lot of bad games, and then we went through this stretch of really good games, like we've seen in recent years.
But Mr. Finebaum, I guess my question is was the station? I'll leave nameless. Were they more worried about showing the celebrities versus what was going on the field, in the aspect of the Philadelphia Eagles came out to play. They dominated, and they kind of gave up a little bit of the dominance. They brought in the backup. And
yeah, I mean, I never know what the right thing is, because when you're in a game like that, you've got the game won. Now, of course, what was it, 5 or 6 years ago, or maybe longer, the Falcons had the game won too against Brady. They were up 28-3.
And I'm a Falcons fan, yeah.
But there's a difference between being up 28-3 and 40-6 in the fourth quarter. There's nobody's ever overcome anything like that. So yeah, I mean, I don't blame Philadelphia putting some back. I mean, to be able to play in a Super Bowl is a big deal, and I'm sure it means something. And the final score of a game is irrelevant. You just won the Super Bowl. It's not like you're trying to break a 100-year-old record at Augusta National, so you might want to try to birdie the final hole. I mean, the final score of a Super Bowl is one of the most irrelevant things known to mankind. Unless you lose the spread.
Well, no, and I get that. I'm not a betting man, but that's what I love about the NFL. It's like you win, you're good, and it doesn't matter how much you win by. It's
right.
Just, do you win or do you lose? And Mr. Finebaum, I do apologize. This is not SEC, but
it's a Super Bowl. I get it. I'm actually, since I did not watch the end of the game, it was 40-6 with 8 minutes to go when Philadelphia scored a field goal. And at that point, did it really matter? So Hopkins got the next touchdown. They went for 2. And then with 1:48, Xavier Worthy got a 50-yard. I mean, I doubt anybody on the Eagles sideline already gave 2 reps. I'm sure they were already. Yeah, the Gatorade came out with 2.5 minutes to go. So, I mean, those are always weird. By the way, I thought the same thing was happening in the CFP championship a couple of weeks ago, and Notre Dame came back and almost made it interesting, but they did not. We'll take a short break. We are back right after this.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
And we are back, and let's continue. James is up next in Beeham. Hello, James.
Hey, Paul. Have everything going well today?
Yes, sir. It's going great.
Heck yeah, man. Just wanted to, kind of put a little spotlight on. I mean, like we all know, Jalen Hurts, played quarterback at Alabama and all the things. We know the whole story and all. But he also, to no fault of his own, maybe or not, he got benched and, then came back and helped, Alabama win that SEC title game when Tua got hurt. Anywho, he still transferred to Oklahoma, where he was drafted by the Eagles out of Oklahoma. I bet Bama fans appreciate, all the things that he done for them and all, but we got to let it go. Can everything be built by Bama? Let's talk about, Devontae Smith, the other guys. I mean, like I said, I get it.
Well, but remember, though, he does have a degree from Alabama.
Yes, sir. And that's totally fine. But, non-Bama fans, we all know and we all get that can't, everything be about Bama, even though Bama fans think everything is built by Bama. Let it go, like he transferred to another school, and they just had to find, it's almost like they had to find something to, not to be proud of, but something because they didn't get anything, or they had to have it all the time. And this is just, another point that it can't all be about Bama.
Well, I don't think the University of Alabama has let classes out because Jalen Hurts won the Super Bowl.
Boom. But Bama fans are still, you get what I'm saying, Paul.
Well, I hear a lot of Georgia fans who are proud that. Listen, I understand what you're saying,
yes,
but that's really what makes fans unique is they follow their players, and a lot of players. It's not unusual. I mean, when over the course of history, when Alabama players or other players have done well, the fans follow them. You don't think Tennessee fans took great pride in Peyton Manning's career?
Well, for sure, but that's his career in college is different than Jalen Hurts in college. When it comes to,
I don't know. Jalen Hurts started in two national championship games. Do you know many quarterbacks have done that?
No.
They didn't finish the second one. But, other than the fact he got pulled at halftime.
You know how Bama fans are, and everybody's just like, oh, Bama fan, I'm a Bama fan, Bama. In this situation, he played at Alabama, transferred to Oklahoma.
Well, listen, you make it sound like he got his degree. He had played there, 4 years? I can't remember how long he had. 3 years. I mean, he was ready to try something else. Should we hold it against Joe Burrow that he left Ohio State to go to LSU?
Perfect scenario with that because I am a LSU fan, but you don't see Ohio State fans being like, our former quarterback won the Heisman Trophy. Our former quarterback won a national title at LSU. They recognize that he played for them, but you don't, he moved on to LSU. Baker Mayfield, Texas Tech to Oklahoma. They you don't see Texas Tech being like, oh, we're so. Texas Tech fans aren't like, our former quarterback, is now the quarterback. This no, Oklahoma claims him. Oklahoma should claim Jalen Hurts more than they do. Maybe so Alabama fans don't have to claim him as much, because he did good things for him. You know what I mean?
Not really, but I get it. Hey, thanks for the call. I mean, I don't think it matters. I think we're getting a little bit petty here about this. But if Alabama had won the national championship this year, would they have been as excited about Jalen winning? Is Oklahoma claiming it too? I think so. Might as well. Cheerleader is up next.
Hey, Paul, thanks for taking my call. When I was watching that game last night, nobody else may have had this opinion, but I've got it. I felt like I was watching one of the best Alabama football teams when they won the national championship. That's how good those Eagles,
They were good.
were.
I think. By the way, I know this. I think Saban was coaching Philadelphia.
Maybe so. He probably
It looked like a Saban coach team.
It did, and it reminded me of an Alabama game. When the other team they just couldn't get it going. They just couldn't get it going. Now let me change the subject just a minute to the commercials. I thought it was great that they had some women on the commercials that were older than 22 years old. And I know they just did a fabulous job on the Michelob and the pickleball and all that kind of stuff. Did you like that? And when Harry met Sally and the mayonnaise.
Yeah, I did see it. That was funny.
That was really funny.
Hey, by the way, do you play pickleball, cheerleader?
I do not.
Yeah.
I do not. But I'm telling you, Birmingham's flooded with it. And
it's everywhere.
Hold on, Paul. To address the gentleman that was just talking before me, Alabama. We talk about Alabama because Alabama fans call in and want to talk about Alabama, and we have something we want to talk about. We've got 2 basketball teams, 1 and 2, getting ready to play on Saturday, and we had all those players playing for the Eagles. So, yeah, we're fans, and we love our team. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you very, very much. I didn't think the topic today would be whether Alabama should rightly claim. I think Georgia had more players than Alabama on the Eagles, didn't they? Braxton is up next.
Hey, Paul, how are you doing today?
Braxton, we are doing great.
You know, Paul, I have missed calling the show. I am back, Paul.
Where you been?
Life, Paul. And, I haven't been calling the show. I've been busy and all that. But I promise and I pledge to be calling every week, at least twice a week, until the caller bracket is revealed, and then maybe I'll get on it for the first time ever in March. Anyways, Paul, I'd like to give a few people shout-outs. Paul, I'm going to give a shout-out to your whole crew.
Okay.
Your whole crew deserves it. Everybody, including you, Paul, and all the phone answers and all the people who film, put it on live TV, everybody. Thanks for what you do. And, Paul, Tennessee baseball starts this week. I am so stoked.
Yeah, so
also,
I was
Paul,
talking to a friend of mine today, Braxton, who's in SEC circles, and thank you for the call. He said, listen, never been better in basketball, which we understand. He said baseball is even better than basketball. And we have 4 of the top 5 are in the AP poll are from the SEC. Baseball is better. That's how good the baseball season is going to be. Speaking of basketball, a major upset yesterday, or was it? The star of the show, Madison Booker from the Longhorns, will join us next.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
And it was the story of yesterday, well, other than the Super Bowl, Texas knocking off South Carolina. You heard us talking about that. And we were talking about Madison Booker here on Friday when we had Vic Schaefer on to preview the game. And we are delighted to say hello to Madison. Madison, first of all, congratulations. I know you and your teammates and the entire city and university are thrilled today. Tell us about it and good afternoon.
Yeah, it's a Monday. It's a Monday afternoon right now. Just coming off a big win Sunday. Hey, it's a normal day now again. So, we moved on from win. We got a good game coming up Thursday.
Madison, Coach Schaefer told us about what happened a couple of weeks ago in Columbia, and that's what always happens when you go to South Carolina. Things don't go perfectly, but they did go well yesterday. To describe what happened, what the taste that you left that arena with a couple of weeks ago, and how everything transformed to an epic victory yesterday.
Yeah, I just think in Columbia, I think me and my teammates, we kind of we really didn't start out well. I think also we was kind of, shook a little bit from the, the pressure. Also, the fans there were very loud. Like, they have a great fan base. I think, it just like threw us off our game, and it kind of, we was rushing shots, rushing possessions. Defense wasn't that well, and we just, didn't, come out the way we wanted to come out.
Madison, listen, you play, I mean, every night is an ordeal in the SEC, but there are a couple of schools that don't need any introduction where it's really a huge event, but nothing quite like South Carolina on national television in a standalone. As you approach a game like this, I know what you won, but what goes into the mindset as you get ready to take on the most famous coach in the land against the best team?
I just think, preparing for that game. I think Coach Schaefer said it a bunch of times, we're going to have to be perfect. And, you can't be perfect, but, playing a great team with so many talented players on it, also a great coach, you just got to, you got to limit your mistakes, and you have to really, really pay attention to details, and you basically have to be perfect.
Madison, listen, I know we're here to talk about Texas, but when we're showing a shot of Coach Staley, and everybody knows what she has done for the sport, and the Olympic coach, and just an inspiration. Just talk about her for a second. I realize she's on the other side, but she has to be meaningful to every young woman that plays college basketball.
Yeah, most definitely. I think, the first time we did play, South Carolina this year, just going through the handshake line, and just her telling me, good game. She also kind of complimented me on my body that I lost weight, of course, and I was like, wow, she noticed. I mean, she's such a big figure in women's sports. Definitely, a lot of people just look up to her. Of course, a lot of people want to go to South Carolina too. Just the history she has brought to that program, the things she has done for that program, also for women's sports. I mean, it's just, it says a lot about her, and of course, many more. She's, I think a great role model too for women.
Absolutely. Talking to Madison Booker here. Not like Texas doesn't have a few people that care about its program. I saw Vince Young in the crowd last night, and that's just among many, many others because I was in Austin a couple of weeks ago, and it's hard to find a more legendary figure, at least on the football side. Although I have a feeling you may be up there pretty quickly on the basketball side. Let me ask you, because we're showing a few pictures here, but you're honoring another one of the Texas greats behind you, only arguably the most famous men's player to ever put on Texas, Kevin Durant. Tell us about. You may be in the university center, but talk about KD for a second.
I mean, yeah, I think, growing up, just kind of watching basketball a lot, especially just, watching players' highlights, kind of to grow my game. I think, one of the players I was, I watched a lot was Kevin Durant. Also Carmelo. Also my favorite PG was Rondo for the women's side. Maya Moore. So I just think, he was one of the ones that, now that you see my game kind of, mirror a little bit. Yeah, people, all say that I wear 35 because of him. I really don't know why I wear 35. I think somebody gave me the number, and I've just been wearing it ever since. And so people, when they see me, they're like, oh, KD number? I'm like, yeah, sure, of course. I watch his game, stuff like that. So I just really think that's how it happened.
Go with it. I have a tough question. I grew up, I started my career as a sports writer where we have to describe great players like you. How would you describe your own play?
I think, I play my own speed. I think I'm just not a scorer. I don't label myself as just a scorer. I think I get my teammates involved. I think I do other things. I think this year I've kind of added defense to my, resume a little bit. But of course, there's more to get better at on that end. Just think I'm more all around player. I think it's just simple to say as that.
I think your coach agrees. So I want to close talking about Vic Schaefer because we got to know him, as I'm sure you did as a young person, watching those great teams he had at Mississippi State. He seems like an engaging guy, but I know how fierce and intense he is because I've seen him on the sideline many, many times over many, many years. What's he like to play for?
Great. I mean, you get his best, you get his best every day. Practice, games, just any day you always get his best. And I think, like going up on the stage, it speaks loud, but sometimes he wants it more than the players, which, is kind of sad, but also it just shows you the type of person he is and, how much he wants to win, just not for him, but also, for us too, his players. So, I mean, we get his best every day, and I just love playing for him.
Madison, finally, and you have to do this when you're an elite team, which you folks are. You win, biggest win of the year, but there's always another game around the corner. How do you, I know you want to celebrate, but how do you bring yourself down and start preparing for the next game?
I think it's just a mature mindset. We have to be kind of, just have that mindset of, that's just one game, and it's many games after that, and we're just not planning to win, just one big game. We're planning to win a championship, and so I think we have to have the mindset of not satisfied yet, and that we want more. Like, we're not done. Like, we want more. We want to play more, and we want to play to the end. So I think it's just that type of mindset just going into the next day.
It's the oldest cliche that it doesn't get any easier, but we just showed your schedule, and it doesn't get any easier. You're at Kentucky. They've got one of the elite players in the country on their team and a great new coach. And then you deal with LSU, which I'm sure is going to be another electric atmosphere. Talk about the next couple of days.
Yeah, I just think, one game at a time. We have Kentucky, top 10 matchup. They have a great guard over there. I just think that same thing we did South Carolina yesterday. We just have to play team defense. That's just the mindset we have to go to. I think that's really the reason why we won yesterday is because we played as a team, just not on the offensive end, but the defensive end too. So, I think that's just the mindset. And it's just, one game at a time. Just don't look too far in the future.
Well, Madison, you ruined Dawn Staley's afternoon, but at least she had the Super Bowl to celebrate. So it wasn't a complete bust, although I'm sure she would rather have reversed the games.
Go Eagles. I was going for the Eagles, too.
I don't blame you. So were we. Hey, thank you very much. Congratulations, and keep going. We hope you take it all the way to the finals. Madison joining us from Austin, Texas, after the biggest win Texas has had during this college basketball season. We take a short break here, and your phone calls are right around the corner.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
We are back here on a Monday afternoon, and Trey is up next. Good afternoon, Trey.
Hey, Paul, did you have a good weekend?
Yes, sir.
What do you think Taylor Swift's message was to Kelsey after the game? You think she told him to just shake it off? You think that's what she told him?
She said, I think she said, we got some bad blood now. You're a loser. You're gone. I'm going over to the Eagles side of the lines.
Exactly. Two things, Paul. One is, how come game day basketball, how come they're always twice a year, they're always at the Duke, North Carolina game when North Carolina is so bad, and there's so many other better SEC games to go to? And the second question is this. Everybody talking about the big game this weekend between Alabama and Auburn. Paul, I hope the players and coaches aren't overlooking tomorrow, because Auburn goes to Vanderbilt and Alabama goes to Texas, and we know how tough the SEC is, especially on the road. So I just hope they're not overlooking these games coming up Tuesday. And thank you for taking my call, and you have a great week, Paul.
Yeah, Trey. Why does college basketball game day go to Duke, North Carolina? Because it is the defining game in college basketball over the last half a century. And I watched it. Was it 2 weeks ago? It was dreadful because North Carolina has an inept coach. But it's still a ratings grabber, and the atmosphere is usually guaranteed. And that's a different type of show than football. You have to marry that show to whatever game you have that day as your featured game, because the personnel is the same, and it's just not quite the same. And that's a good show, but it's never quite grab the pizzazz of the football show. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Jerry is up next. Hey, Jerry, go right ahead.
Mr. Powell, nice to speak to you again,
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you very much.
Hope everything is fine in Finebaum land.
It is great. Thank you.
It's fantastic. I'll tell you what they could have done on that game last night is put the president in the same suite with Taylor Swift. That would have been interesting to watch.
Yeah, I don't think that was going to happen, though. Remember, she came out and endorsed Joe Biden, and President Trump tweeted, "I hate Taylor Swift." So I don't think that reconciliation was anywhere near happening last night. Maybe later.
Yeah, well, it'd been fun to watch anyway.
Although Patrick Mahomes and his wife greeted the president on the field very warmly.
All right, one quick take. I don't know what your feelings are on this, but as far as the college football situation with the players making money now, which is fine, and with the transfer portal, I wanted to get your take on what you thought of that. As for me, I don't really have a preference as to what to do on the money end, but as far as the transfer end, let the player transfer one time. And then after that, if he decides to transfer a second time, then make him sit out a year.
Well,
maybe that would cut back on
yeah,
that.
I mean, I agree with you. I think we're all getting a little sick of the multiple transfers. What's even more interesting, and I think you heard Commissioner Sankey right here the other day let his feelings be known about Diego Pavia getting time back for having gone. What did he go to? A junior college or a? The commissioner did not sound thrilled about, just letting players go 6, 7, 8 years. So there's a lot of things in college football that are completely upside down. Don is up next in Florida. Hello, Don.
Hey, Paul. How you doing?
We're doing great. Thank you.
I want to eat a little crow with you. I used to teach my stills and learn to eat crow before you eat steak. I heard you kind of knocking Jim Tressel. I know Jim Tressel. Jim Tressel won about 5 or 6 Big Tens. He won the national championship. He's president of 2 colleges. Mm-hmm. He took people from the prisons that were in trouble and tried to school them and help them out. And I just think he'd be a good guy. And then you said, like, kind of sarcastically, making fun of his red vest in Ohio. And I've been watching you now 10 years as a good old 86-year-old vet, and I got my dandruff got up a little bit. I said, wait a minute. I can remember when I was at Myrtle Beach on leave from the Army, and laying on the beach for 3-day rest, and the kid said to me, "We're going to beat your, what?" Again, I said, "What are you talking about, buddy?" He said, "The Civil War." I said, "Hey, buddy, we're not fighting the Civil War anymore, okay? I know you're from the South."
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, Jim. I was born in the South. I know but if you know any more about me, my parents and even my older sister were all from the North. So if you think I was brought up with my father taking me to Confederate battlefields, you're sadly mistaken.
No, I thought you were just on Jim a little tough there. I mean, he's a smart guy. He's got a doctor's degree.
Well, listen, I'm well aware who Jim. All I mentioned is that I'm not. By the way, I always liked Jim Tressel as a coach. I thought he was a good coach. But I'm not the one who. I'm not the one who fired him. The president of Ohio State's the one who fired him.
He got fired over a tattoo.
Yeah. And by the way, I agree. He probably shouldn't have been fired. But that's not on me.
Well, yeah, but look at today.
The university overreacted to a public, and also Jim Tressel denied knowing about it when it came out that he did know about the tattoo situation, and he was proven to be a liar. That's why he was fired. So don't try to tell me because he wears a red sweater vest, and I happen to be born in Tennessee, that there's some connotations about what happened at Appomattox.
My home state. Sound like he's making fun of my home state.
I don't care if it's your home state or not. I'm just giving you an opinion. And if you're asking me, would I ever want to move to the state of Ohio? The answer is no.
I'm playing a little Jim on you.
Well, I mean, you got your dad. By the way, what does laying on the beach have to do with me?
I wasn't talking about you. I talked about a guy that I was on leave in the Army, and he was bad-mouthing me. I thought, what the freak is wrong with you, buddy? We kicked your, once we could do it again.
But Don, I wasn't bad-mouthing you. I was bad-mouthing Ohio State.
My home state, Ohio. Because if you go back and check, there's more presidents than the guy that landed on the moon. And, us Buckeyes stick together.
Yeah, well, you ought to, because nobody else likes you.
Yeah, well, that's your story, and you're stuck with it. You should learn to eat crow before you eat steak. So, you know what? I think Philadelphia looked like a Jim Tressel offense.
Well, I just want you to go back and ask, who was it? Was Gordon Gee the president of Ohio State at the time? Ask him why you guys fired Jim Tressel, okay? Don't ask me.
Well, I don't want you getting mad.
And by the way, Jim Tressel is now the lieutenant governor of the state of Ohio. Can you tell me what that job entails? What do you do?
Well, you assist the governor, and if something happens to him, he gets killed, he becomes governor.
Well, okay.
What does the Attorney General do? The Attorney General is, if you have a problem, you can call the Attorney General of Alabama and say, hey, I need to speak to you about something. But Jim Tressel has a very kind heart, and I just wanted to say my opinion because as an 86-year-old vet, I have a right to say something. So
Don, what service were you in?
Army for 12 years.
We have something in common. My father served in the Army as well under General MacArthur. So I may have to come back on you and not be so harsh.
I wouldn't. I'm not harsh. I'm actually a nice guy.
Thank you for listening to the Best of the Paul Finebaum Show podcast. Watch the Paul Finebaum Show weekdays from 3 to 7 Eastern on the SEC Network. Plus, you can listen and watch on the ESPN app.